All right, everybody. So here we are for the Q&A for the Usui Reiki Ryoho Support and Community Group. Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. And I hope that this is a very beneficial call for everybody joining live and also for people in the future who are watching the recording. So I'm very happy to open it up to anybody with their questions. And they don't have to be surrounding specific, obviously the focus should be Usui Reiki Ryoho. We can incorporate other modalities if you want. We can talk about business development. We can talk about the whole ethos of the Reiki space as you like, but hopefully the idea is going to always gravitate around URR. All right, who's first? Is that you, Sarah? You're laughing, huh? Is that you?
I'm giggling. I'm just here to see what happens. I guess I just came from a sound bath and I'm kind of like, so I'm going to go with the flow.
Very nice. Very nice. All right. Who wants to jump on with the first question?
I will, Bruce.
Yeah. Thank you, Susan.
I'll jump in because I was planning on emailing you anyhow. I want to know, and it's not a specific question. I wanted to understand a little bit more about how you teach and how you train, because I want to take some trainings from you, and some of your classes. So I am a Reiki master, and I got my own business and my own practice and all, but I just have really, I appreciate where you're coming from. I'm really resonating with how your message of Usui Reiki is just beautiful. And so my question, I guess, would be, where should I start? I am also interested in your sound training, healing as well. But for someone who has been a Reiki master for a while and it has, I do Reiki sessions and all, what would you recommend? I love the history part of what you teach. It's not how I was taught at all. Never heard half of the stuff that you bring to the group and the value of it. I watch your YouTube videos and all of it. But for someone like me, I have no opposition with starting right from the beginning. What would you recommend for a Reiki master that wants to kind of retrain?
Yeah, well, first off, thank you for the kind comments. I'm grateful that you are enjoying the content, and yeah, thank you for your comments about my teaching, and I'm glad to know that it's a positive impact on your journey with Reiki. That's very beautiful to hear. So, the way that I would answer that is that Reiki is and I've got a video, maybe you've seen it, Susan, I'm not sure, but it's a lifelong learning process, right? The video that's coming out today, actually tonight, well, tonight for me, it's coming out in 4 hours time, depending on wherever you are on YouTube. I'm kind of addressing that again because I'm talking about why 98%, it's a euphemistic figure, but anyways, a vast majority of people in this space, why they end up not progressing in their career. I'm not suggesting that on you, I'm suggesting that with the learner aspect of Reiki. A lot of people will just be under the mindset that, yep, I've learned it and now I'm in business. No, like we have to constantly study. We have to constantly train. We have to constantly work on our understanding of the practice. My understanding of the practice, I hope, right now, is as good as it's ever been. And if you talk to me tomorrow, I hope it's even better. And I hope it's even deeper as time progresses, because we have to evolve with our practice. It's about doing our work honestly, right? So, with that being said, there's a number of opportunities. I don't know if you've heard about the Missoula intensive that I have coming up. A couple of people here in this call are going to be there with me, which is going to be awesome. Scott and Tracy, both of you are going to be there. So I'm very much looking forward to that. So I don't know if you've heard about that opportunity. And if you haven't, I can drop the link to that in the chat. That would be a fantastic way to really dive in, because you're already a Reiki master practitioner. We can do these intensive trainings. There's no problem. Like when I sit with Inamoto Sensei, my teacher, we do intensive trainings on average once a year, I would say. And I've been doing that for many years now. And we can do that because we've already taken the initial trainings and we've already done all of our integration. And hopefully you're integrating your practice every single day, right? So if that's something that resonates with you and by chance you can come to Missoula in the middle of next month in August, then that would be fantastic. If that's not available to you, then we can work together online. I've got my courses online, and those are both guided or self-paced. And For me, I think that I've done, this probably resonates with a lot of people in the room or in the call. I think I've done my master training now, the inclusive Usui Reiki Ryoho training about 12 times, something like that. And that's not like, I hope next year it's 20 times. You know what I mean? I hope when I die that it's many, many, many magnitude more times than that, because we have to constantly turn in back to the self. Every time we study it again, we learn something new. And in particular, if it's your first kind of deviation from a more traditional Western approach to Reiki, if that makes sense, because the further
Yes.
away we get from the headwaters of the practice, from Usui Sensei or from the Japanese component of Usui Reiki Ryoho, then it ends up being like the telephone game. Right? So it's like, we learn hopefully something that's very pure and very true, but then one teacher will start saying like, I can use psychic surgery, or I can call in archangels, or I can do, and then that it very quickly becomes, well, I studied under this person who can also do this, or they also call in the Virgin Mary, or they do. So then that becomes now the basis of it. And there's nothing wrong with those things. It's just that all of them, to put it very bluntly, in my opinion, all of those things are dead ends because they're all forms of attachment. Right? So the best thing that we can do is go back to the source, as close as possible to the source, learn from that, and then try to keep staying in the current of hopefully a non-attached practice.
And I realized that from one of your other trainings that I attended, and that's that definitely was what was missing for me in my own practice. So, and I agree wholeheartedly with what you just said. So that is where the continual learning and going inside, that's extremely important to me. And so that's why I'm asking. It's like, where do I start to do that? I've already had a taste of it through some other trainings that I've watched. And I do want to stay as close to the roots as I can. I mean, that's the lineage I'm in. I want to stay as close to my roots without getting into all the foo-foo, so to speak. I'm not a foo-foo person anyhow. And I say that with love, but I've never practiced like that. And be it whether it hurt my practice or my business or not, it didn't matter to me after a while, because this is my practice right now in my journey. And so that's why I was asking the question, where do I begin? And I'll start from the beginning, so be it, that's fine. But I just thought I'd throw it out there.
Yeah, well, I'm very happy to talk to you about that.
Okay.
And I love what you just said there, that this is my practice. In the video that's coming out later today, I'm making that point. What I'm saying is, what if we all viewed our, like in the video tonight, I literally say this, and I mean this wholeheartedly. I mean, all of you might be looking to me as a teacher, or somebody you might want to walk with, or somebody who's going to walk alongside of you. I look at all of you as my teachers, because we are all connected, right? Daikomyo is the energy of all things. Reiki is the energy of all things. So when we get into that perspective, you are an extension of me, just like I'm an extension of you. So anyone in this group, in this call, or anybody listening in the future, you can say this exact same thing. If I view all of you as my teachers, and I'm doing my work honestly, and I'm being grateful and kind and loving, and I'm not worrying and I'm not being angry, then the least that I can do is bring, hopefully, everything that I know to assist you, because that's also assisting me. If we look at it as a transactional arrangement, like I'm the teacher and you're the student, well, then there's a hierarchy, and hierarchies create duality, and duality is where all suffering is from. So if we flip that whole narrative, then when I'm in front of everybody in Missoula, I'm turning up for you, but I'm really turning up for myself. Like, you're investing, whoever comes there is investing your time and your money into me. The least that I can do is invest all of my expertise back into you. And I think that's a really beautiful way to look at it, right? And we think about how you can see that as a converse in the holistic world, the Reiki world, where a lot of times it's like, I know what I'm doing. I'm going to do these things to you. and you're going to be upgraded or whatever. And that doesn't make any sense. We can't do that. It's just belief, right? So, I'd be very happy to walk with you I'll put the link here to Missoula in the chat. And somebody mentioned as well in Chicago, I'll get to that in just one second. So there's the Missoula intensive. And then also on my website on rootsoflife.org, you can see the different trainings that I have. There's a tab there that says online courses. And then you can talk to me anytime about that and we can walk with it together. Many people in this room have taken my classes. If you would like some slightly biased reviews, I'm sure that they can give it to me. So, but no, it would be an honor walking with you and really keeping it into the roots of the practice. Many of you have probably heard this, and this is one thing that I love so much about the essence of Usui, Reiki, Ryoho. You know the story where it's like if people were trained enough or if they were deep enough in their practice, then Usui didn't do any hands-on healing, it didn't do any attunements, didn't do anything except simply sat with the person. That's what I'm saying. If we sit together, and if I view you as an extension of me, and you view me as an extension of you, then what do we need to do? We simply need to hold space and be present and arise in every moment that we can. That's the essence of the whole practice, right?
I'm going to CVS to get some meds.
Okay. And I think that one of the issues with that, one of the issues in the practice is, again, this idea of the commodification of it and the attachments in the story. We might need those things. I did. I needed when I was starting on my journey, I needed all the attachments I could get because I didn't know how to look inside the self. So we need to put a lot of that onus on somebody else, right? And that's fine. So there's plenty of teachers that teach from a perspective of belief or attachments or stories or images or whatever it might be. And those are very necessary steps to help us gradually look inside. But at some point, we have to recognize Ansen Ritsume, a quiet mind, and sit with the self. That's the true essence of Usui, Reiki, Ryoho. Yeah. So I'd be very happy, you can reach out to me anytime. I'm sure you know how to get in contact with me.
Yes, I will.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Alina, I don't at the moment have any plans to be back in Chicago, but it is my hometown and a place that's very dear to me. So that might be coming up in the future. All right. Next question.
That's great. Thank you. I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, of course. Are you in the city itself or are you on the outs? You don't need to say where you're from. That's not what I'm asking, but I mean, is Chicago?
No, northern Chicagoland, northern suburbs.
Okay, perfect. All right. Next question.
So I will go. If that's
oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead,
no, that's
Scott.
okay.
Elena, we'll get to that next.
So I've gone through a few Reiki trainings. I did the whole lineage of holy fires and the karunas and then you popped into my presence, and then all of a sudden it was like I realized that all of these things that I was moving through felt like it was distracting me from the true essence of what Reiki I believe now to be. My question is, how do you incorporate the symbols in your sessions and still just be in Reiki? I mean, this is where I'm having some conflict, and I just had a session with a client 2 days ago, and I just sat in Daikomyo and just sat, and next thing I know, I'm like, oh no, I've got to draw out Chokurei over her, and and it's like, it's like that we're supposed to, do you see where I'm going with this? It's kind of like where am I going?
Absolutely. I know what you mean. Let me just let some people in here very quickly. And then Elaine, yep, no problem. You're not late. We're going right into the Q&A. Just a question there. Scott, let these people in. But Yeah, this is a question. We're going to be going into this in a huge amount of detail in Missoula, by the way, when we're sitting in Okudan, when we start going into the symbols. But I'll say it here for the perspective of the chat. Obviously, this is going to be like hours of discussion when we're together, so I'll try to make this brief. The symbols are only applicable to us. Like, I can only use the symbol on myself. There's no, because again, it goes back to what I was saying before, we're all connected. Everything in the universe is connected. So therefore, everything in my frame of perception, meaning my external reality, is just an extension of my internal attachments. You know what I mean? Like, people who are having a really bad day, they might walk forward to a beautiful sunset and not even be able to see the sunset. They're not stopping to smell the roses because their internal environment is too cluttered, right? And so that's the only thing we have onus over. The only person that can calm down you, Scott, is you, right? And bring you back to Daikomyo, right? And so the client is an expression of your own stillness. When I talk about what Reiki healing is, the idea of healing is holding neutral space with somebody. They can feel the neutrality. Everybody's felt this. You know when somebody has ill intentions, or when they're a little bit weird and they give you a hug and it just feels like really repulsive almost, you know, or like we can sense that, right? So that same intelligence is felt by the person, I feel very strongly, on the table. You have your hands on, most likely on the person, or at least very close to the person. And you're probably in a private setting. So I'm sure they know that they can trust you. Otherwise, they wouldn't be in this type of a vulnerable position, right? So that person is doing their own healing work. They have to go into themselves. And so as they get closer and closer to their own darkness or their fear or whatever it is they're ready to let go of, they're going to need your stillness in order to be, I quite often say that it's like neutral hands that are just behind your back. I don't mean from a Reiki perspective. I mean, like, Scott, you're walking in front of me. My hands are right here. When you face your demon and it scares you, I've got you. And I don't mean I've got you from a judgment perspective or a belief perspective. I mean, I'm simply trying as best I can to hold as much neutral space as I can in the session. So that means, how do I use the symbols? That means that when my mind and my body become busy, as it inevitably always does, then I start to scan the body again with chokure, right? Feel for places that there might be physical, emotional, mental, visual disturbances, whatever it might be. And if that's not enough, that scanning to let everything settle, then I might start chanting Seihiki. Like, okay, I feel a resistance. Maybe I'm getting heart palpitations. I'm sure all of you have felt this when you're working on somebody, you feel energy moving through you as well. Okay, chokure, like, why is that? Where is it? Let me zero in on it. And if you can zero in that you're getting heart palpitations, then you can maybe stay focused there with Seihiki to let it rest in balance. Once it rests in balance, you might move on to Honjaze Shone, which means I once again recognize that Scott and I are the same thing, or Sarah and I are the same thing, or Tracy and I are the same thing, or whatever, right? I'm back to this place where time and space don't mean anything. So what's the next step is Daikomyo, right? And so when we are feeling that stillness of Daikomyo, then you would simply rest there again until you inevitably get busy again. And then it would go back again to chokure, scan the body. It's never about the person on the table, because if anything is about the person on the table, then by definition, that means that I've made a judgment about the person on the table. That means that my ego is dictating the thing that I believe they need to have happen, which means I'm not practicing Reiki because I'm not doing my work honestly. A lot of other Reiki schools don't talk that way, right? A lot of other schools are formed in belief and formed in attachment and grandiose story and all of that. We might need those things. We might need a spectacle. We might need to put our belief into somebody else because maybe our internal space is just too scary. That's 100% normal, right? But at some point, it's a dead end. Full stop. Right? So that's how I use the symbols. Choke away, like a lot of times people say, I'm going to choke away the room to clean the room before I do the Zoom call, or choke away my computer to make sure that Reiki is going to make my computer work or whatever. But where's that thing? Like, I have to believe that my computer's not going to work for me then to want to choke. So I just don't believe that it's not going to work. Just trust. Like, we don't need to do any of those things. because everything that makes me think I need to use the symbols on something is in my mind. So the only thing I need to use the symbols on is my mind to let it go quiet. And then, yeah, in Missoula, we're going to go way into that. Yeah. So I hope that helps. Alina, I think you had a question there.
Yeah, I had a question. I think Susan mentioned the history and the symbols as well. So I guess I have a confusion in my mind. This is regarding your, I think it was the last YouTube video about the symbols.
Yep. Yep.
And you mentioned the that the re syllable, the Seihiki, which Seihiki is kind of coming from, is from Pure Land Buddhism. And I guess I'm totally confused. I thought Tendai Buddhism is not related to Pure Land, and I thought the Kri symbol is more like a feminine deities of Buddhism, like Canon. So would you recommend any reading on that? And another question, I've heard the rumors about a new article, a history of Reiki article that is coming out soon, that was mentioned in Japan during the conference, something like that. Do you have any knowledge?
Yeah, let me address that one first, because I think that's a shorter response. And by the way, everybody, please just chime in the middle. I used to be a teacher, so if you have questions and everything, just chime in. You don't have to wait for me to stop talking. You can just literally unmute yourself and be like, hold on, I've got a question. No problem. Just, this is an open conversation, right? So the first off, the point that you're asking there, Alina, about the history, that might be in reference to Olaf Bohm or to Dr. Stein, who are both publishing books soon to be released on some historical aspects about the practice, for sure. They're both history books, but they're looking at kind of different historical components of the practice. And when they do announce those books, I'm hoping to have them in the group for a webinar as well on that. So we'll have them live for that. But I was talking to both of them in Osaka about those projects. They're very interesting projects indeed. And I think they're coming soon. And last I talked to Olaf, it was very, very close to being published. And Dr. Stein's work, I think, is there as well, or very close to it. I can't speak for them. I don't know the specifics, but I think they're very close. Right. So I think that would be what you're referring to. I can't think of anything else from a historical perspective that would have been there. Now, in regards to the symbol for Seihiki, yeah, we can see the symbol, or the representation of the symbol anyways, inside the symbol for the Amitabha Buddha. The Amitabha Buddha is the figure for Pure Land Buddhism, slightly different than Tendai Buddhism. Usui sensei was a lay monk, kind of straddling both schools. And this is the point of this, if you've been to Japan, is kind of explained in the like the geography and reality of the area. Tendai Buddhism and Pure Land Buddhism were kind of gravitating both around Mount Kurama and more in particular around Mount Hiei. So any lay monks that were in that area were most likely a lay monk of one of those two schools of thought, right? Now, to go on further to the feminine component of that, this is a very interesting discussion and a very interesting question to raise. There's no way to say this factually, so I'll share with you my thoughts on this, all right? When we are on Mount Kurama, if anybody's been there, you'll know what I'm talking about in Kyoto. You can see at Kurama-dera, at the main temple, there's 3 different deities that are represented in figure form, right? And they're represented in this order: Mao-san, Kenon, Bishop Montan, okay? And so Kenon is in the middle. And if we think about the human body as being a manifestation of the feminine energy that is then nurtured by the universal masculine and supported by the strength of Mao-san. There's more to go in with Mao-san, because the belief is from the Sonten sect anyways on Kurama-dera, is that Mao-san is the energy of life that descended from Venus, but Venus is a feminine planet. So it's always oscillating male, female, male, female, male, female, like yin and yang, right? So we have a male base, a feminine body, and a male cap. So the only way that we can recognize the pure land is if we calm down the feminine body, right? If we free the feminine body of attachment, as it were. And you can see this very clearly. Well, that's a leading way to say it, so I don't mean it like that. It's suggested like this in the three figures in the basement of Karamadera, in the sense that Mao-san and Bishop Montan are both really stern, angry looking warriors, really stocky, really strong. They look immovable, right? However,
I thought for me, my son was actually extremely happy, extremely loving and giving. It's like he's smiling there.
Of course, but look at it's like Fudo Myo. Like Fudo is the ability to burn the attachments of the self, right? All of these deities are loving and kind, but what they're representing is the key to their expressions is by what they represent. So Mao-san is like the immovable energy of the earth, right? It's stocky. He's like strong, and he's standing. Well, it depends on you can see many different statues that might be showing these deities in different facial expressions or postures or whatever. But the traditional ones for Mao-san and Bishop Montan is that they're both standing on corpses or like foul animals or like weird looking people or whatever. And they usually have a spear or a sword or some sort of a weapon that they have conquered these things. And those things are the attachments in the body, right? And this is what's suggested further by the 1,000-armed Bodhisattva canon, right? So like all of the different arms of canon, each one of these things represent a different avenue, perhaps, of our future arrival in each moment as we arise into each future moment, or they represent attachments, they represent aspects of healing. It's kind of like the difference between the feminine and the masculine mind. Like masculine minds are a lot more one directional, a lot more black and white, whereas the feminine mind is much more all encompassing. That makes sense, right? And so the duality of both is that we have this ability to make a compartment for the body so that the energy of feminine life, or the life that is, everything comes from a female energy, right? Christ came from Kenon, the Virgin Mary, the same story over and over and over again. So as that becomes nurtured and calm, then we can arrive at the balance that Seihiki is discussing. The balance of Seihiki means that there's no differentiation between Bishop Montan and Mao-san and Kenon. It means that the masculine and feminine dualities are indistinguishable from each other. And if they're indistinguishable, then they don't exist, right? It's neutrality, it's non-attachment. And that is when you then find this idea of the pure land. The pure land is the hara, the womb for women, or the prostate for men. So if we can have this part of the body that drives all life be free of attachment, then that means we are not recognizing attachment even to our own life, if that makes sense. If we don't recognize attachment to our own life, then when we die, we would be free of attachment and we can transition to the pure land. Now, how do we get rid of those attachments? This is where Fudo Myo comes in, and a lot of the other stories in the mythology around Mount Kurama as well. I think I talked a lot about that in the previous. I'm very happy to talk about that here if you'd like, but I think I've talked about that in the previous talk as well. But keep this in mind. The idea is, like as well, for Chokure, we scan the body to find the resistance, but which one heals? The masculine energy protects, the feminine energy heals. That's the duality of life, right? These masculine deities are in armor, they're warriors, and the feminine deity is flowing and moving and dancing within the body, right? So we find the resistance, and then we heal the resistance until there's no more resistance. And then we become Sonten, the main deity of Karamadera, right? And I think that's what's being alluded to in the symbol itself. This idea of, okay, Chokure may have been what Usui sensei recognized on his enlightenment. When he had recognized this great Reiki over his head, he might have recognized, the story is that there was like a thunderbolt and he passed out from it, right? And then when he came to, was recognizing that there was some ability to heal. But then the rest of that entire story is pretty much summed up either in Kuramadera or just symbols and nomenclature from traditional Japanese Buddhism, like Honjaze Shone and Daikomyo. Daikomyo you can see written all over the place in Japan. In so many temples we went to them, they're written like right there, right in the main temple. They've got nothing to do with Reiki. It's just the great white light of compassion from the Buddha. But you are already the Buddha, right? So we have to recognize that you are already enlightened, and we have to get back there. So in order to get back there, we have to recognize space inside of the body for Kuan Lin, Kenon, the Virgin Mary, whatever you want to call her, to dance and heal. Seihiki. I hope that clarifies a little bit. I hope that answered your question, but of course I'm happy to chat further if you'd like.
Thank you. I need to think about it. It's not really clear still, but I'll think about it. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Bruce.
If any other questions come up, just let me know. But the way that I practice this, maybe this helps, the way that I practice this is to try to recognize Sonten, which is the main deity of Kuramadera. Sonten is, okay, this is further represented than Lena on the mandala in front of Kuramadera temple. So the mandala that people come to, pilgrims from all over the world come there, not Reiki practitioners just, but people from all over the world come there to this place. There's a power vortex, if you want to call it, or whatever, of energy in front of the main temple. So it looks like a flower. It looks like it looks like sacred geometry, or whatever you want to call it, like, you know, like the 1,000-petal lotus of Svadhisthana, the crown chakra, or whatever. So, or sorry, excuse me. You've got this petaled diagram that you stand in the middle of, and each one of the initial 6 attachments of that petal represent the attachments of our life, of our senses. So there's 6 of them. So it's mind, body, sight, taste, hearing, and touch. I hope I'm correct on that. I think I'm correct on that. And if we can let go of all of our awareness of our senses, then we become the triangle that's in the middle, which is represented by Kenon, Bishop Montan, and Mao San. So we become the Holy Trinity, right? Because we've let go of the self. If we can let go of the Holy Trinity, then we become Sonten, which is nothing, which is Daikomyo. But so when I practice that, if I'm trying to get into a space of stillness, then I try to recognize that there's busyness in my body, and I might just repeat something like Namo Kuan Yin Jinpo San, Namo Guan Yin Yincho San. Like I might just repeat this over and over and over again, which means like the sacred Kuan Lin, just her name, the sacred Kuan Lin, which is recognizing my body as being that feminine energy until it calms down. And then there's nothing left, which is very fleeting, by the way, if it even comes around. So I hope that helps.
Do you have any recommendations on reading on this topic or anything?
Yeah, I wrote a paper on this. I don't know if you've seen that or not. I wrote a paper
on
this.
I've read the paper, yes.
Okay. There's another, now to be fair, I haven't read this book. I'm certain that it's fantastic. What is it? I think it's called A Reiki Practitioner's Guide to Mount Kurama. It's something like that. If you look
yeah, I have this, the Reiki Birthplace.
Yes, that's it. So I've never read that. I would assume that is probably a good resource though.
It's a very good resource. But it's very short in the information on Buddhism and like different types of Buddhism. So it's more like a guide to Kurama, actually.
Okay, so if that's not filling in enough, then yeah, maybe there would be, let me have a think about that. Let me have a think, and I'll come back to you on that. I'll probably post it into the group about some different topics that I would think of for that. But please let me know any follow-up questions so I can have more clarity as to what I can maybe help with, and I'm very happy to dig into it for you.
Thank you, thank you.
My pleasure. So Elaine says, Dr. Stein's book should be out late fall. Yeah, for sure. His dissertation and the book are fantastic. So, well, the book should be fantastic. Yeah. So, all right. Next question. Anybody? Thanks for that point there, Elaine. I appreciate it. Yes. So there's a good question there. Nicholas Pearson's book, is that a good reference? That is Shoden and Okudan what's the title to that book off the top of my head? I think it's called The First Two Levels of Usui Reiki Ryoho or something like that. I think it's a fantastic book. I think it's a fantastic book because it is talking a lot about the traditional Japanese practice of Reiki. It's explaining a lot of the symbols. It's discussing a lot. I've read it. I've interviewed Nicholas, I think 2 or 3 times. Yeah, there it is. That Sarah's got it right there. Yep. So what is it called? The Foundations of Reiki Ryoho. That's right. Shoden and Okudan Manual or something. It's called something like that. So I think it's a fantastic book. From memory, it does not go into the depth about the deities that Elena's question might be looking for, right?
I don't think
And
so.
this is getting to be like the question that I think we're diving into when we're looking at the nuances of the deities of Kural Madera. This is something that demands a really big conversation, right? So I'm going to be, again, teaching about that in Missoula, and teaching about that in my upcoming new filming of my master videos, which is hopefully will be done soon. It's a big undertaking, but there's a lot of information there for that, right? A lot of information. And not a lot of people that I've seen anyways talking about it. When I was last in Japan, I did meet up with some very interesting people in the Kural Madera area, excuse me, that are doing archaeological research and doing a lot of ties to Shugindo and a lot of the practices that are there, and have had some very interesting conversations. One individual is a PhD candidate from Harvard who's writing a dissertation on that area specifically. And so a lot of that work gravitates around a lot of the things that were in your question. I hope to have that individual on for a call, but I haven't arranged that yet, but we talk quite often. So more on that coming up. All right. Let me make sure I've got everybody in here. Thanks so much, everybody, for being here. I appreciate it. Let me know the next question. Anybody?
I have a question.
Thank you, Sarah.
I'm just curious, I just did a sound bath this morning, and while she was doing it, I did the hand positions and kind of incorporated Reiki at the same time, and it was really beautiful. I'm just curious if you ever incorporate the two, or if you feel like that's kind of forming attachment, like we were talking about, where you're relying on the sound rather than just placing hands and surrendering.
Yeah, I mean, I have all of my bowls right next to me. I've got, you can probably hear them. So I've got like 10 crystal bowls here. I've got a whole nother set of Tibetan bowls behind me. I've got a drum right in front of me. They are all forms of attachment. Fully, they're forms of attachment. Of course they are. But remember that people might have a really busy mind, right? It's not often like in Hong Kong, for instance, when I'm seeing a lot of bankers and people who are seriously like busy in their mind all day, the frenetic energy of the city. Reiki might be too gentle and too subtle for a lot of people, right? When I work with kids who have kids in particular, who have attention deficit disorders or Tourette's or anger outbursts or these types of they've got a lot of frenetic energy that they need to let go of. The bowls are really going to be a way to let that open up pretty quickly. And I've explained that in a recent video about singing bowls and Reiki on YouTube. The reason why I think that they're so effective together is because the bowls are so effective at confusing the mind and just making the person let go. Right? Absolutely. Yeah. And that's it. that's what the bowls do. And a lot of people will be like, it's alchemy infused, like divine suffragio frequency type. Yeah, fine, it is. But in reality, what's happening is there's so many different sound waves and oscillations of pitch that the brain's just like, I don't know what's happening. It's binaural beats. That's why it hypnotizes. Right? Yeah. Then from that space of relaxation, like I'm sure you still feel from your gong bath, then you can really allow that person to sink into the practice of Reiki. They're going to just surrender into it.
Yeah, and that's what I found today. I went in with a very busy mind, and I felt, I thought, okay, I need to work on my heart center. I feel imbalanced there. And actually, once I just let go. It was more solar plexus, more throat where I felt releases. So it kind of wiped out my intentions, what I thought I had going on, and really helped me kind of tune in where I needed to. So I thought it was really beautiful, but usually I don't do that. I don't use sound or anything. I just, place my hands, but it was a very unique experience this morning.
Yep.
So I was just curious.
Yeah, usually when I incorporate it, I just, as a personal preference, I would start with maybe 15 minutes of the bowls, and then I would move into the Reiki from there. And it would be as seamless as possible. So what I mean by that is, like, I might, if the space allows, you might have a massage table for the client to be laying down. And hopefully you can maybe have some side tables where the bowls are already set up. So you can already be seated kind of at their head, and you can just be playing the Tibetan bowls or making the crystal bowls sing. And then you can just gradually slow that down and then just transition right to the Reiki without saying anything, to keep them in that space.
Yeah, that sounds ideal, because I'm used to no sound. I just like to have, darkness and quiet. So I wasn't sure, if it would be confusing for me, or or if it would be better to separate. So I think that sounds really good. Yeah.
I don't think you're going to get many.
Can I chime in a bit?
Yeah, jump in, Tracy.
Hey, Sarah. That was a great question. I'm also a sound healer, and I actually worked on my first client earlier this month. So yay for me. I did it, Bruce. I answered the call. But she has a busy mind. She's sick, and I think she called me because Reiki was, I guess, her only hope at this point. So I did the session, and I knew she thinks this is kind of like woo-woo stuff, right? But she's giving it a try anyways. And I knew that she wasn't gonna like settle her mind. She's like, I just know her as a person. She just can't shut it off. And so I did that. I did the sound bath first, and then that led into the session.
Wonderful.
And so I did, like maybe 15, 20 minutes. And even from that, the sound bowls, the crystal bowls, she just fully let go. And that was able to help her open up to the idea of receiving, right? And she said she felt things moving, happening. And actually, at the end of the session, she got up and she just vomited. So that was the first,
Trial by fire.
So, yeah. I was just like, whoa, literally. And so, like I think, incorporating sound, especially if, the person might have a hard time like settling in, like, I think that's great to incorporate both together. I kind of wanted to segue this into a question of mine, maybe for everyone here. So I've been Bruce's student for, I think, over a year now. And I am going to Missoula. Longer, well, even worse, I guess. Not in that way. I just feel, what I'm trying to say is that I have a very strong self-practice, right? What I'm trying to say is that I'm constantly feeling I'm not ready. Like, I'm not ready to practice on other people. And I don't know if it's, I'm working on that. Like, it's confidence. I'm working on like some inner stuff, like, and I just feel like I just kind of like, I'm quiet. I don't tell people. I'm just like, oh, I'm not ready.
I'm right there with you.
Yeah. Okay, great. Cause like, I was just going to ask all of you, like, maybe everyone here has been a practitioner, like probably longer than I have. But like, when do you kind of know? And we had a conversation, Bruce, about this, the last call we had, and the call from that friend, she's stage 4 cancer. And you said like, well, this is probably your call. And this is the one client I did, and I haven't done anything after that. And I'm telling myself like, okay, I'm not ready. I got to go to Missoula, and maybe I need to learn more. And I feel like I'm just collecting information. And I think there's got to be a point where I just need to trust that I know what I'm doing, and have that confidence. And so I guess my question is if anyone wants to just chime in or answer, or give me some advice, like, you know, has anyone experienced that where they're just kind of in this like weird spot? And I know, Sarah, you said you're right there with me.
I am
so
definitely, I have a very
Yeah.
strong self-practice, but I haven't worked a lot with clients. Absolutely. Mhm. Even trying to decide when to do my master training, which I haven't done yet. I feel like I need to like put in my time before I deserve that.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way. Like I feel like I just don't know what that time will be. And I know I'm at this like this precipice, like it's happening. Like things are happening. People are asking about Reiki. I am speaking about it a lot more. So it's, you know, it's moving along. But, you know, for anyone here that wants to sort of like, you know, chime in, and, you know, if anyone
I'd like
if
to
anyone
say
felt the same
something.
way.
I'd like to say something. This is Elle.
Hi,
I
Elle.
am not a practitioner. I'm actually only a Reiki level 1. And I only, well, I mean, I do share Reiki, but I only really am doing it for myself. And this is the way I feel. Of course you're ready, because the Reiki energy is there. It's around everyone. It's in everyone. There's nothing you can do that will make it not work, because it's there for each and every person. So yes, of course you're ready. Everybody is ready, because you don't have to do anything. You just have to open up and let the Reiki do its job. And that's all you have to do. And if you focus on the fact that you are a good, I don't know if like the right word is, a good channel, a good carrier, a good implementer, you know the Reiki is in you. You know you can let the Reiki come out of you. So of course you're ready, because it's there and there's nothing you can do to make it go away. You don't need to be anything and you can do it. I feel the energy. I've never studied anything, but I feel the energy. It's in me. I commune with it. I let it heal me. It's there. I can't stop it, even if I wanted to. So yes, I believe you are ready. That's all I wanted to say.
Thank you for that, Elle.
Thank you, Elle. Thank you.
So if I could say something, and this is what I tell all my students, I mean, and what I tell myself every day. What is it that I fear? What is my fear? Because that is the root of everything that stops the action. And so going within and asking yourself a discerning question, what is my fear? And then using a series of so that's. So an example, why do I fear working with other clients? I don't know, maybe because it won't work. So that, and then write down what you're coming up with. And then so that, write down what you're coming up with. Because when you can go into discernment and get to the root of what is preventing you from moving forward, then all of a sudden it becomes, oh, okay, I got this, you know? So just as it's helped some of my students, and it helps me on a daily basis, because I too go into, sometimes I've been doing it since 2015 professionally and going, am I doing it right? And then I come back to, I'm not doing anything. So
Wonderful advice. Very wonderful.
That is, yeah, wonderful advice. I mean, for me, like I've been questioning my fear a lot, and like coming to Missoula is actually like, I don't travel, and I don't travel alone. So like, I think this is a really important step for my journey, just to get on that plane. So I'll be seeing you, Scott. So
I'm excited. I'm looking forward to it.
So yeah, I'm really looking forward to it too. So, but thanks guys. Thank you for
I
that.
think there's something really beautiful about this mindset that everybody's sharing here as well. And I think it echoes what Elle was saying. Like, remember with Reiki, we don't need to learn Reiki. We don't need to study it. We don't need to understand who Usui Sensei is, because we already are Reiki and we already are enlightened. We already are a part of it. It's about the time when we're not recognizing those things that we might need to have a practice, which is the majority of the time, right? There's nothing to do when you're Son-ten, when you recognize stillness. It's the other 99.9 infinity% of time when we're not recognizing stillness that we need to understand why we're not recognizing stillness. That's why we learn and we study. And I think having a mindset of self-doubt is coming from a place of honesty and sincerity. The guru believes that they've already had it mastered. And we can't master this. There's no way to master this. It doesn't make any sense because it's non-dualistic and we are dualistic, right? So that means we have to constantly learn and constantly surrender and constantly go into our fear, like Scott's saying, right? Sit with the self over and over and over again. Like I was saying at the beginning of this, I hope that right now is the best that I've ever been with my understanding of Reiki. And I hope that tomorrow I'm even better. I hope that we could have the same call tomorrow and be like, guys, I figured this new thing out. Does it red? Like, you know what I mean? Because we have to keep growing. That's what we have to keep doing. I would be afraid of the practitioner who's like, I got this. You just lay down, I got this. That's the type of practitioner I have serious doubts about. Yeah, because that's all here. It's all here, right? So face this every night, like, or whatever your practice is. I love how, Sarah, I think you were talking about your clients, or maybe your self-practice was in the dark. Is that what you do?
Yeah.
Silent, dark self. That to me is the that's like the pinnacle. That's the best. Take away all the distractions.
When I first started, I had the YouTube with the every 5 minutes and the music and the chimes and everything. And now I just silence and my eye pillow darkness. And yeah. I've had more success with that, which is why today I kind of questioned it a little when I had such a reaction with the bowls. It's like, well, maybe I should kind of incorporate some of that too.
Yeah. I think that silent self-practice, because you're taking away so many forms of egotistical attachment, right?
Right.
We still have a big reaction to the bowls. I love the bowls. When I'm doing my self-practice every night, sometimes I chant to the Amitabha Buddha, sometimes I sit in silence, right? Yeah. So the chanting to the Buddha is a distraction, but I probably need that because maybe my internal desire to light the light in my fear is just too strong at the moment. So for right now, I'm going to do my work honestly and take a step back. It's maybe a bit too heavy. That's all. That's all. There's a question here in the chat from Elaine. Thanks for the questions in the chat, Elaine. I appreciate it. When I first learned Reiki, did you find the story of Usui Sensei as something you believed or not? I was taught that it's written on his gravestone and was true. Indeed, it's written on his gravestone. And also, indeed, when I was first learning Reiki, I believed it to be true. Now I find beauty in the ambiguity of the story. We know that it's written on his tombstone. We know that, I mean, you can go read it. It's translated in almost every Reiki manual. We talk about it all the time when I'm with Inamoto Sensei. We talk about the writings on the tombstone and so on. But what I love is that there's no factual account of him on Mount Kurama that we found yet. Like there's no photo of him. There's photos of him. There's no photo of him walking up Mount Kurama. There's no logs, at least that I've seen, of him sitting on the mountain for austerity for 21 days. There's none of that in existence. And I hope that there never is, because as soon as these things come into existence, that's going to immediately create separation and doubt. It's going to create a stance of, well, he fasted for 21 days on Mount Kurama. There's no way I can do that, so I can't ever practice Reiki, right? You already are Usui Sensei, so his life and story doesn't matter. At some point, we have to let go of even Usui Sensei. And so that's where I am now. It's like the myth of Christ as well, or the myth of the Buddha. The Buddha doesn't exist. Did Christ exist? Yeah, Christ existed. We know historically that there was somebody called Jesus Christ. Did he change a fish sandwich into 5 million fish sandwiches? But maybe not. You know what I mean? Like that's a story of attachment more so than it's a story of what do I want to say? Of factuality, in my opinion, right? What does it mean to change one little sandwich into enough food to feed everybody? Is that daikomyo? Isn't daikomyo the food that feeds everybody? Right? Like, so what are we really talking about here? I like that ambiguity because it allows us to see ourselves in Usui Sensei. I think that's very special. Yeah, I hope that helps. Yeah, I hope that helps to your question there. That's just my thoughts on it. But I know there's a lot of people who are really, really working to find that history. I think that's great. But I don't think they're ever going to find what they're looking for because that's already inside.
Thank you, Bruce. I don't care either way. I'm just curious to know your thoughts.
Yeah.
I like the story. When I teach classes, I find my students like the story. And I guess to me, I always believed in it. So it's almost like finding out Santa Claus the story of Santa is not true. So it kind of bothers me to think that it may not be true. And the fact that it's written on the stone makes me think if I really want to believe that it's true. And if not, it's not changing my practice either way. But as a teacher for beginning students, I really like that.
Absolutely. And, you know, we can definitely rest on the things that we know are true. We know he started the Gakkai. We know that it was started in Japan. We know that there's a story of his austerity. It's only the thing on Karamadera that happened of his 21 days of austerity that is ambiguous. Everything else, there's historical accounts of it. There's, you know, writings from Hayashi Sensei, for instance, talking about the trainings. There's the Gakkai, which still exists, that he founded, Usui Sensei. So, you know, all of that is very real. It's the beauty of that, the beauty of the austerity. That's Usui Sensei's journey and his journey alone, right? You walk into the darkness of yourself to light your own light of the Buddha. So we do that in private, right? Without any attachments to anybody else. So I love that
Right.
little piece. It first hit me, maybe you've heard this, I've said this in some of my videos, I think, but the first time that I ever went to Mount Kurama, it was, for some reason, I happened to be in Kurama town, and my brain played a trick on me, and I didn't realize that the entrance to Karamadera was right there, and I was walking to the onsen that's now closed, sadly, that's just up the road from Karamadera. And we walked past the mountain, my wife and I looked and I was like, oh my God, that's the mountain. Like, that's where we were going to go tomorrow. I didn't click. And so I was obviously super excited. And I walked up to the ticket gate that's right by the front, you know, main gate of Karamadera. And I was like, oh my God, this is the Reiki mountain. This is where, and the monk was like, the what? This is Karamadera. Do you want a ticket? 2 people? And I said, yeah, isn't this, spoke English. So I was like, isn't this where Usui Sensei had his enlightenment? And he's like, Usui, oh, you mean this thing, the healing touch thing, right? He's like, yeah, that happened somewhere back there, I think. It's perfect. It was a perfect response, because it's like, don't worry about that. Just feel it. Just go and feel it. Experience it for yourself. Your own truth will come out. Just go back. Let your attachments stay at the gate.
Interesting. Good story. And also, I was just going to say one more thing. I'm hearing people now saying that Usui had been practicing a lot earlier than when he went on the mountains. Like the way I heard the story originally, he was on the mountain and then discovered Reiki, but he had been studying maybe not his own per se, but other Buddhist practices, and encompassed it. And then when he went on the mountain, received this Satori and then changed his life.
Right. Very well could be. We don't know. What we do know, Dr. Stein talks about this quite often, is that there were a number of very esoteric, I mean this in a positive way, I don't mean this, just don't know how else to say it, but kind of cultish religious sects in Japan, like fringe religious offshoots of Buddhism and stuff that was happening in Japan at that time, that were incorporating things like energy healing, right? Or like healing with the power of the universe or whatever. I don't remember the exact schools of practice that Dr. Stein talks about off the top of my head, but you know, even going outside of Japan, I mean, energy healing goes back as far as time, as far as humans, right? I mean, as far as we have a concept of it, Jesus was doing hands-on healing, you know, 2023, 2030 years ago, whatever, right? So how far ever back you want to go, that's the same thing. All right. Wonderful questions, everybody. Anybody else? Next question. Keep picking. I know everybody's enjoying it. At least I'm enjoying it, and I'm enjoying sitting with my teachers, so I don't have any desire to wrap this one up anytime soon. So who is next? Go ahead, Scott. Oh, I can't hear you.
I'm muted. Sorry about that. I was muted. I muted myself. Silence. It's a good thing. So I have a question about manuals. Did you write your manual? Do you prescribe manuals to your students? How effective do you feel manuals are in Reiki training?
Yeah, that's a great question. The teacher in me definitely has written my own manual as a culmination of my teachings that and my practices and my trainings and everything. How effective is that to the learner? It's probably, if the person is a visual learner, it's probably pretty effective. If they're an experiential learner, it's probably less effective, you know? When I go through my manuals live in person, then I'm never reading them. This does my head in. Bless his heart. I mean, bless him. How old is he now? 88 and not in very good health. But Doi Sensei, I did his Gendai Reiki training just in Osaka before the 100th anniversary. And it was, with all due respect, it was a very difficult process because it was like a 95-page manual that was literally read word by word. And the manual was a clear print into each and every slide. So at some point, I'm like, we can all read, just like, let's talk about the nuance between the lines here, right? We're sitting in the presence of a very renowned Reiki teacher. We can read the manual at home. We can't be with you at home. So let's have something, right? So that's the angle that I try to come from with my manuals. They're there as a resource, but the practice is the main focus. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I've written them. I know that like Inamoto Sensei, like my teacher, if you go into Komyo Reikido, the reason why I'm not a Komyo Reikido teacher, I'm a Shion, a Komyo Reikido Shion, but I don't teach with the Komyo Reikido slide or with the name of that, simply because his wish is to not do online teaching. I think that he's thinking that everything should be done in person. I don't agree with that. And I think that the world is moving to a place where this is how we're going to be conversing. It's all, with all due respect to Inamoto. I mean, he accompanied me on my pilgrimage and he was, part of that whole experience in Japan. So we work together a lot. That's just out of respect as to why I don't. Why I'm saying all of that though is because his students are able to just use the Komyo Reikido manuals. The Gendai Reikiho teachers are able to just buy the manuals from Doi Sensei, and then they just use those. With my students, you can just use my manuals if you want, right? But yeah, that's what I do. Yep. All right, anybody else? Let's see. Okay, I've got one here. Julabel, thank you for your question. I hope I'm saying your name correctly. I hope I'm saying your name correctly, Julabel. Yeah, kind of. I think I got a kind of there. All right, let's see the question. I'd like to know your take on the precept, I will not be angry. How can you not be angry without becoming indifferent? Isn't that the opposite of love? Well, so there's injustice. This is my take on this. Right now, I'm talking to all of you. In reality, right now, I'm sitting in a room and talking to a computer that has pictures of people that I assume are real. That's in reality what's going on, okay? So there is a huge amount of injustice and suffering everywhere you look, right? But I'm looking at, 11 people. So there's no injustice or suffering here. So it's in my mind, right? And I know that might come across as being a little bit callous, but there's so many of these beautiful stories of processions of monks who will walk right into a battle zone and they just walk in with silence, at peace, right? And it's like, there's a great discussion of this in an old documentary that I used to show in school that was covering the one of the military coups in Burma, in Myanmar, back in the 1990s. And it's called Burma VJ, video journalism is what it stands for. And so in the middle of the battle in Yangon, I've been to Yangon many times, and in the middle of the places that it's like, that's right downtown. Like, it's the worst place that you could possibly have a war, where neighbors are literally shooting each other. There's this beautiful image. This person is in their room filming it, and this whole procession of saffron-cladded monks, saffron-robed monks, just come walking right in. Some of them die, and they just keep walking. And it's such an overwhelming expression of peace inside of this vehicle of fear and anger and suffering, that people literally lay down their guns and they start crying, like, what are we doing? What are we doing? So all of those things, the attachments to anger are all here. Now, the biggest test of that, and where this would be, I would hope that I could stand up to this. I'll think about, like, if somebody walked in here right now and started beating me up, I would hope that I could exist without anger. I would defend myself, but I would hope that I could exist without anger. That's why I'm laughing, because this is like, I would be very impressed with my self-practice. Let's just put it that way. If I responded without any anger, I don't know that that would be the case. All of those things are here. Anger and worry cloud the mind. If the mind is not clouded by the first two precepts, then the rest of the precepts, the following three, gratitude, love, kindness, and honesty, are our natural state. So we have to let go of the anger and the worry that's in the mind that clouds our judgment. Because I'm not actively being oppressed right now. There's no active injustice to me right now. So if that's the case, then everything is an attachment of the mind. Depending, everybody has a different trajectory, everybody has a different life, right? Everybody has a different past, but it's still all framed in the mind. So I hope that helps with that question. Tracy, I'll add, so with the manuals in Missoula, no, you can bring that a digital copy for sure if you want, or your printed out copy, and I'll be printing out copies as well. I'll be communicating that with everybody who's coming into Montana in the next couple weeks, not a couple, 10 days or so. Yeah. All right. One of the questions that I get, I'll just expand on this question here about the precepts and about anger and worry. Quite often people are saying, that's just for today, I will not be angry. So can that be changed to just for today, I will be peaceful? Well, of course it can, right? Of course. So I think that the reason why these initial precepts, what resonates with me anyways, is that they are focused on this idea of not being angry and not worrying, is because in many ways, worry and anger are natural states of the egotistical mind and body. We're always attached, right? And attachment creates suffering, and suffering is manifested via worry and anger and fear, these types of things, right? So it's like our main function is peace, but it's clouded by our ego. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Just for today, I let go of anger. Yeah, perfect. Or maybe even just for this breath, right? Just for the next 2 seconds. Or whatever, because it's always in that one particular moment that you are going to be free from that space. Louise, thank you for the question. Let me read through that. I taught a group of women, and they did not like this precept because they felt, as women, we were told for so long that we had to be passive and couldn't be angry. I explained that this takes more holding on to anger than hurts you, rather than it helps you to stand up for yourself and heal. Yeah, I mean, anger is an expression of ourself. I mean, it's an expression of our suffering, right? Everybody suffers. So even this statement here, I mean, it's really difficult because there's movements and catalysts that are taking place right now, and it would be sacrilegious to say something like this. But if you're teaching a group of women that didn't like this precept because they've been told for so long that they had to be passive and they couldn't possibly be angry, and Of course, women were oppressed by masculine presence and all of that type of stuff, of course. But the question would be, is that happening right now in this very moment, right now? Right now, right here, right now, is that happening? And so if it's not, then it means that the expectation is being clouded by attachments to the past. You know what I mean? It's not giving a pass to all the injustices in the world and everything that happens all the time. It's more of a conversation of where are you at right now, right here, right now. The perfect example for that is, I'll give a preface of this very quickly, is there's a great story about this guy who was pissed off. This is a metaphor with the Buddha, or a story with the Buddha, but he was pissed off because all of his servants and his let's just say slaves, because they were probably slaves, were going and learning from the Buddha instead of growing crops on this guy's field. So he went to the Buddha and got right in his face, was angry and yelling at him and spit on him and everything, and walked away in anger. And the Buddha didn't respond. And then the guy came back the next day and was right again at the Buddha's face. And the Buddha was just like, hey, how are you doing? Like, and the guy was like, are you mad at me? And the Buddha's like, why would I be mad at you? You haven't done anything to me. He's like, yesterday I spit in your face. So the point of it is, right now you're not doing anything to me. So why would I be mad at you? Let go, let go, let go, let go. Right? That's, again, this is why the Buddha doesn't exist, right? Because it would be like, yeah, it's easy to say when we live privileged lives, right? Let's go to inner city Chicago, where I used to live, in the south side of Chicago, and tell kids there, just, hey man, just let go, man, just let go, just be present in the moment. You're just present in the moment, and where I used to teach, you'll get shot. So again, we have to recognize that these types of things, but it still doesn't excuse the idea of being present in the moment, does it? It doesn't, right? Maybe being present in the moment is being aware of everything. Yeah, let go. Elaine, thank you for that. Let go. If we just let go, when it arises, let it go. When it doesn't happen, just let it go. When you die, just let go. When you're born, just let go, if you can. Just let go. We don't own anything. We don't own things. Things are us. Everything is a part of the same story, right? So just let go. Flow with it instead of fighting against it. All right, maybe 2 more questions. If anybody wants to chime in. This is an incredible conference. Thank you, everybody. It's already been like an hour and 20 minutes. It's incredible. Thank you. It's gone very quickly. Anybody else? Last couple final questions. Everybody good? All right. Well, everybody, thank you so much. There is that link to Missoula. If you're interested, I'll pop it down here again one more time. That's going to be a very, very beautiful experience. It's actually, let me grab it from the chat at the top. If you are able to, it would be an incredible opportunity to meet all of you. I'm very much looking forward to it. In that, we're going to be going through all the levels 1, 2, and 3, very, very deep dive into the practice. Yeah, I can't wait to be with everybody. I can't wait to sit in the practice of it. And thank you so much, everybody, for being here tonight. If there's anything that I can do to help you on your journey, feel free to reach out. I'll drop my email here as well. Yep, that's it. Or of course, in the Usui Reiki Ryoho support and community group, feel free to reach out anytime. This is all part of the learner's journey, and it's all about doing our work honestly, right? So again, like I said at the beginning, the best thing that I can do for my practice is to turn up and show up for each and every one of you and help as much as I can, because that's helping me. So I hope you view that as the same way as well, right? Turn up for yourself, for your own practice, and then that's going to be a space where everybody else is then going to turn up for you because you're turning up for them. The people who have already been working with me, a number of you have, you know that, I hope anyways, that comes through. So anytime you have questions or you need support, you need guidance, you can send me an email anytime or message the group. We're always here to help. All right, everybody. Thank you so much, everybody. It's a beautiful conversation with all of you. I really do appreciate it. Be well, each and every one of you. And as always, In Gassho to all. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.